Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic guy. Remember it so you don't have to. There is no doubt about it. The Simpsons has defined a generation of humor. It was slick, it was clever, it was satirical, it had unforgettable characters, and it left its mark forever on television history. Clearly it was ahead of its time and taken off the air far too early. And if it was still on air today, I'm sure it would continue to inspire and challenge all of the masses out there. God damn it, it's still on! Yes, like most people, I really wish The Simpsons would just up and die so we could talk about what a great impact it had on comedy as opposed to asking why the hell they're beating a dead horse with another dead horse. But either way, we still end up saying the exact same thing. Wasn't The Simpsons funny? And the answer is yes. Yes, it was. Despite the fact that they've more than overstayed their welcome, we still can't forget what an entertaining, quotable, and hilarious impact the show has had on us. It's one of the most influential shows in that it helped form so many people's sense of humor. So many of us today get our delivery, our writing, our performing, and just our straight-up sense of comedy from the genius that was The Simpsons. But again, I must ask, which ones had the biggest impact? Which ones were the most memorable, meaningful, or just downright funny? Well, let's travel back to Springfield, Massachusetts. This is the top 11 best Simpsons episodes. Our best episode. Number 11. Deep Space Homer. Just the title alone invites so many possibilities, and The Simpsons take advantage of all of them. I mean, think about it. Homer in space. This has got to build up a lot of good jokes. And it does. NASA's ratings, as well as their funding, is going down the toilet. So they decide to find the everyman to send up into space to get more viewers. The results are Barney and Homer, resulting in every kind of joke you can imagine out of these two. Drunk jokes.
For the duration of the training, there'll be no more beer.
What? 3 whole weeks with only wine?
Exercise jokes.
There once was a man from Nantucket who's gone!
Movie jokes.
The only danger is if they send us to that terrible planet of the apes.
They even got Buzz Aldrin to guest star. Isn't that great to hear one of the first men on the moon say,
"Careful, they're ruffled."
The jokes range from visual, to verbal, to story-driven, to character-based. And just about all of them hit bullseyes. They showed us exactly what we wanted to see with this setup and had us laughing all the way through. Number 10. Itchy and Scratchy and Marge. This fuels an issue that is still being argued about today. How much of violence in our youth is based on media? In this episode, Maggie imitates a stunt she saw on Itchy and Scratchy and injures Homer on the head. When Marge sees where it came from, she starts an all-out war with the cartoon makers. At first, they ignore her, but after a while she gains quite a following, enough that the producers feel they have to change their product to a friendlier image.
They share and love and share, love, share, the Itchy and Scratchy Show.
The kids don't like it anymore and partake in a revolutionary idea, going outside. Everything seems surprisingly peaceful until a tour of Michelangelo's David comes into town and all of Marge's followers want her to protest it. But in reality, Marge sees it as a work of art, which leads to a perfect crossroads of freedom of speech and censorship.
Well, what do you have to say to all those Marge Simpson wannabes out there who wish to suppress David's doodle?
But what makes this episode so great is that it's not directly attacking freedom of speech or censorship. It basically shows that whichever choice you make, there's always going to be consequences. In reality, they leave the choice up to you. Is it better to silence expression and free will in the hope for the greater good? Or let freedom ring despite the fact that most of what we're giving people is garbage? It doesn't take a side, it instead attacks everyone, which is when The Simpsons writing was at its best. In the end, there are no clear answers, but there are a lot of interesting issues. For a show that was certainly controversial when it came out, it would have been very easy just to throw together an episode where they say screw censorship. But instead, they took a very clever, very adult, and very thought-provoking angle. Not bad for an episode that mostly features a cat getting horribly disfigured. Funny. Number 9. Homer's Enemy. This is easily one of the darkest episodes The Simpsons have put out. And I'm not gonna lie, that's what makes it so enjoyable. We're introduced to a man named Frank Grimes, a genius mind who had no breaks in life, was met with nothing but misfortunes, and never had anything handed to him. He gets a job at the power plant where he comes across Homer Simpson, obviously the exact opposite. Everything was handed to him, he has no idea about sacrifice, and is as dumb as, well, Homer Simpson. Grimes is horribly confused / enraged that such a man can exist, and wants to prove to Homer, the world, and himself that this is not how life works. People have to answer for their consequences and take responsibility for their actions. But Homer's actions constantly have no punishment. Actually, they do, except it's often given to Grimes.
How dare you destroy my valuable wool and spill my priceless acid? Stay the hell away from me, because from now on, we're enemies.
Do I have to do anything?
The more and more Grimes tries to expose Homer for the fraud that he is, the more and more Homer is rewarded and Grimes is punished. Again, they could have made Grimes just the straight-up bad guy, but honestly, you really sympathize with him. Why are sometimes good, smart people punished and bad, stupid people rewarded?
I've had to work hard every day of my life, and what do I have to show for it? This briefcase and this haircut. And what do you have to show for your lifetime of sloth and ignorance?
What?
2 cars, a beautiful wife, a son who owns a factory, fancy clothes, and lobsters for dinner.
It's just him trying to get some clarity in life and him obviously receiving no answers, or at least none that make any sense. I guess you could argue it's sort of a leave good enough alone story, but the ending is so dark and closes on an image that is downright mean-spirited that it reaches major uncomfortable levels as Simpson episodes go. And you know what? That's kind of funny once in a while. Sometimes we need something really harsh and mean to mix it up with all the shrugging happy endings we get so much. And this one is definitely an enjoyably unpleasant episode. I mean, even for a Simpsons episode, the ending is shockingly aggressive. It's sort of like the No Country for Old Men of the show. You know you just watched something disturbing, but you feel even worse for having enjoyed it.
If you lived in any other country in the world, you'd have starved to death long ago.
He's got you there, Dad.
Number 8. Cape Fear. This is one of those episodes everyone keeps bringing up, and for a while, I didn't get why. It's funny, don't get me wrong, but why do so many people always pick it as one of their favorites? Well, watching it again, I found it's not just funny, it's really funny. Being the third appearance of Sideshow Bob, this was the first time he didn't have a diabolical scheme for power lined up, but instead just wanted straight-up vengeance on his arch-nemesis Bart Simpson. It was actually one of the first times you saw Bart in real peril, like someone was actually trying to murder him. And it came from the perfect person you'd want to see try to murder him. I guess from that angle it's pretty cool. I mean, we have seen this confrontation building up for several episodes, and they delivered it just at the right time. You know, before it became every other season. But on top of that, practically every joke works in this episode. Big or small, visual or verbal. It's hard to think of a scene that didn't make me laugh out loud at just the absurdity of it. Remember this, Jem?
This is dedicated to Bart Simpson with a message, I am coming to kill you slowly and painfully.
How about this one?
Hey, kids, want to drive through that cactus patch?
Yeah!
No!
Whoop, 2 against 1.
And need we forget... Throw in a clever knockoff of Cape Fear and you have a damn funny episode with lots of laughs that pay off. Number 7. Homer at the bat. Again, sometimes just putting a character in a certain scenario is all you need. Homer playing baseball. Boom, the jokes just write themselves. Mr. Burns starts a softball team to which Homer seems to do surprisingly well with, all because of what he claims is his magic bat. But once Burns makes a $1 million bet with another power plant team, the game is on to cheat like nobody's cheated before. He gets some of the greatest baseball players of all time on his side and forms the ultimate super force. What makes this episode so good is not only the writing, but also the fact that they actually got these players to do the voices. They even managed to give a lot of them sort of comedic personalities, like Daryl Strawberry's a kiss-ass, Steve Sachs is upbeat, and Ozzie Smith is trustingly naive. Even with all these people to juggle, though, they still keep the focus on Homer, never losing track that it is still his story. All of the players are funny and memorable, all our characters are funny and memorable, the conclusion is something of a perfect anticlimax, and it ends on one of the funniest stills of the show. It's an all-star cast with all-star jokes. What's not to love?
We're talking Homer, Ozzie and the Straw.
Number 6. 22 short films about Springfield. A lot of people complain that the Simpsons episodes don't really have a flowing narrative. In fact, the story they start off with often has nothing to do with what they end on. Well, in this episode, they just go for broke and straight up show the lives of Springfield and their day-to-day troubles. We get a few minutes with Lisa, a few minutes with Smithers, a few minutes with Dr. Nick, a few minutes with Homer. We even get a few minutes with Bumblebee Man. Surprisingly, what I do like about this episode is that they do sort of connect. Like, Lisa will be chased by bees, so we follow one of those bees to Smithers. He gets stung and goes to the hospital, where we see Dr. Nick is going to work. He ends up draining the power, which leads to the lights flickering in another story, and so on and so forth. So each story very loosely does come together. They even make fun of the fact that they're telling the story in such a strange way that they even make a few Pulp Fiction homages. It's great just to see the characters do what they do, and not necessarily have to be bound by a 3-act structure all the time, as well as a happy ending. Sometimes the jokes and characters can simply come from the jokes and characters. I think the only nitpick I have is that while they did connect a lot of the stories together, they never did connect it through the commercial interruptions. And it really annoys me because it's like the commercials just get in the way of everything.